Hello everyone, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Keisha and today I'm going to be giving you 12 Christmas book recommendations. I'm not quite ready for the fall weather to be over, but I am ready for the Christmas season. So I've already pulled out some of my Christmas decor and I'm going to be going ahead and starting to share some Christmas content with you all. So I thought that I would start with some things that I have read before and give you 12 Christmas book recommendations. Now, most of these recommendations today are going to be romance books because typically around Christmas time, that is what is most popular. So if you don't love romance, this may not be the video for you, but I will say that everything mentioned here today is going to be clean or closed door romance. And then I do have a few middle grade books thrown in here as well. But before we get started today, I want to go ahead and thank the sponsor of this video, which is Raycon. So Raycon so kindly reached out to me and sent me a pair of their everyday earbuds. I chose the green and I have absolutely been loving these. As soon as you get these earbuds, they are ready to go. They came all charged up, and as soon as I opened these, they immediately went to pair with my Bluetooth on my phone. These are such comfortable earbuds. They do have different sizes for these little in-ear pieces that you can fit in your ear to accommodate you and to make you more comfortable. There are different sizes that come in this box. So once you get in the box, they are back here. So you have these different size earpieces, and then you also have your charging cable. And I ended up getting an everyday protective case for these as well. So how this works, I took mine off so I can show you guys. You just slip this on here, and this just enables you to have your earpods. Yeah, that's what they're called, more protected. So I have really been enjoying these. They have really long battery life as well as different settings. They have a balance setting, a bass setting, and a pure sound setting. And I think my favorite is probably the balance setting because it gives you a little bit of both. I don't like the bass setting as much because it's a little bit too heavy on the bass, but if that's something you enjoy when you have your earbuds in, just having that bass, that's a good setting for you. And pure sound just enables a more authentic sound coming through your earbuds. Now, one other really cool thing about these earbuds is that they have a noise cancellation setting. So if you just happen to be around a lot of noise and you're trying to listen to your audiobook or just listen to a podcast or music or whatever it is you're listening to, they do have that ability, and it's kind of crazy how little you can hear because it really does noise cancel. So I wouldn't recommend using that setting in public. Like if you're out for a walk, they do have an awareness setting for that. So just in case you are out on a walk, you can hear passing traffic coming. So you do have those two different settings just depending on what you're looking for. I've only had these for about a week, but so far I've really been enjoying my Raycon earbuds, and I thought this would probably be a really good video to include them in because while you're getting 12 Christmas book recommendations today, maybe Raycon can be a Christmas gift recommendation for someone in your family that you love, or maybe for yourself. I do have a special link down below that you can click on, and you can get 15% off of your order of earbuds if you use the code ABookLikeYou15. So thank you again for Raycon for sponsoring this video, and let's go ahead and get back to our regularly scheduled bookish content. All right, friends, we are going to be starting off with a bang here because I could not start off my Christmas romance recommendations without talking about Courtney Walsh. If you've been here on my channel any amount of time, you will know that Courtney Walsh is my favorite romance author. She writes really sweet, clean rom-coms, which essentially means that there are no open door scenes. There's not really a lot of innuendos. There's a little flirtation, and there's no cussing in her books. These are just really sweet, hallmarky, and funny romance books, and I have absolutely loved every single one that I've read so far. This was my first Courtney Walsh book, and it's called A Cross-Country Christmas. It follows our main character, Lauren, and Lauren hates Christmas, which you'll find out why if you read the story. But it is that time of the year for her to go home and visit her family, and her brother and sister-in-law are also pregnant, and so she needs to go home and be with her family, and she is also scared of flying. So it doesn't really fare well for her that she's in California and her family is in Illinois, but her brother arranges a ride for her with her brother's best friend, Will Sinclair. Now, Will Sinclair is also her childhood crush, and she's not really thrilled to see him because the two of them had a little bit of a falling out, and she has been trying to forget him for the last 10 years. She is very convinced that people don't change, and he's convinced that he needs to prove her wrong and himself wrong. But Will is currently a college baseball coach, and she's kind of getting to know him along the way on this road trip. Will needs to make some stops along the way, and there are so many sweet moments in this story. It made me laugh. I even teared up a little bit in the end, and I think this is such a sweet and wholesome Christmas romance. If you pick up nothing else, please pick up Across Country Christmas by Courtney Walsh. The second book that I want to recommend is also by Courtney Walsh. This should come as no surprise, but we're going to go ahead and get those out of the way in the beginning. This one is called Merry Xmas. Now, I forgot to mention that I did give this book 5 stars, and this book is a 4. All the books in this video are going to be 4 or 5-star reads, so you know that they are great books. So this story follows our main character, Marin, and she has not been home to her small town for Christmas in 8 years. But she is currently trying to win the new host spot for Good Day Denver, which is the talk show that she hosts. So she thinks that the way that she's going to get this spot is to go back home to her small town, and there's all these Christmas traditions that her family does and that the town does, and she thinks this is going to win the hearts of her viewers. However, what she does not expect is when she comes home and her family is kind of surprised by this because she doesn't tell them she's coming, she finds her ex-boyfriend Max there. So it seems that her family had a little bit more trouble letting go of Max than she did. So he's been spending Christmas with them because she hasn't been home for all these Christmases, and they kind of like inducted him into the family and everything. So needless to say, she's a little upset about this. But fun facts, the viewers catch wind that he is there. They don't really know, like, I don't think they know at the beginning that he is her ex-boyfriend, but they think that they're dating, so she kind of has to fake flirt and fake date because her viewers are eating it up, and this is her chance at being the new host of Good Day Denver. This story is again full of so many heartfelt moments and hijinks. There are lots of themes within all of Courtney's books, but especially these last 2 that I've mentioned of like second chances and forgiveness. So if that sounds up your alley, then check out Merry Xmas. The third recommendation I have for you is another 5-star Christmas book. I just read this one last year and I absolutely loved it, and that is Faking Christmas by Kerry Winfrey. This story follows our main character, Laurel, and Laurel is the social media manager for Buckeye State of Mind, which is an Ohio tourism magazine and website. Now, Laurel is trying to impress her boss, and so she's telling him all these different Christmas stories. He has heard all these different things about this sweet little farm, and somewhere along the way, some things get mixed up. Laurel has a twin sister named Holly that owns this farm and does all these different Christmas traditions, and she ends up telling her boss, Gilbert, about these Christmas Eve dinners that her family has always had, and Gilbert gets mixed up and thinks that Laurel is the one who owns this farm, that she's married, she has kids, she's a great cook, and all these things, when in fact that's her twin sister Holly. But now she's in for it. She is going to have to go home and convince her sister to play along with all of these hijinks because she cannot lose her job, and she's having to use the social media pull for like the farm and everything to add a more small town cozy element to their tourism magazine. So she ends up going home, and her nemesis Max, who has been her nemesis ever since her sister Holly's wedding, he happens to be spending Christmas with them as well, and he's going to pretend to be her husband. So we have a little bit of faking Christmas or fake dating. Now, this is a little bit of an enemies to lovers, and there are some parts of this story that I feel like Laurel got on my nerves just a tad bit because she would not forgive, what is his name? Is his name Max too? Yeah, there's lots of Maxes in Christmas books for whatever reason, but she does not want to forgive Max for what happened at this wedding, and so now she's like holding this grudge, and the only thing is I think she holds it just a little bit too long, but other than that, I absolutely love this book. It was 5 out of 5 stars. I laughed out loud. I teared up a little bit at the end of it. There's like lots of just really good moments in this that I think you're absolutely going to love. There's even a holiday cookie baking contest that is really fun to read through. So if this sounds good to you and you're looking for a good short Christmas read, check this one out. The next book I do not own, but it is called Moments Like This by Anna Gomez and Kristoffer Polaha. Now, if any of you all are Hallmark girlies out there, you may recognize the name Kristoffer Polaha. He has been in movies like A Biltmore Christmas, which I absolutely loved. If you haven't seen it, it is on Netflix this year, and you definitely should check it out. But I kind of got a little bit obsessed with him last year, and so I was looking him up, and I found out that he had co-authored this book with Anna Gomez. He also narrates the audiobook. So I had to read this one. This is the first of a duology It's the From Kona with Love duology. This story is going to be good for those of you who may want a little bit more of a tropical Christmas vibe because it is set in Hawaii, and it follows our main character, Andrea or Andy, and she chooses her career over a marriage proposal and then loses a promotion at work. So she ends up jumping at the chance to take a break and help run a friend's coffee shop, which just so happens to be in Hawaii. Andy ends up befriending the staff and quickly grows to care for them, making her determined to revive the company. As luck would have it, she meets the mysterious Warren Yates on Christmas Eve. They share a cup of coffee, some conversation, and even a moment, which leads to many more in the coming weeks. But when Andy learns who Warren really is and what he actually wants, she is torn between her feelings and his deception. Will Warren be able to win her heart back? This was such a pleasant surprise. I don't think this is like one of like the best Christmas books of all time or anything, but it was a solid 4-star read for me and I really enjoyed it. Andy and Warren's Moments tour was the highlight of this book for sure. I also really appreciated Andy's dedication to reviving the Abby's coffee shop. Her character development as well as Warren's was top notch. I really loved the Hawaiian setting, which again is really different for a Christmas book because a lot of times you're going to see a more snowy, wintry setting, whereas here they were in a more tropical setting. There's really great themes of family and love, grief and redemption, and this was just so good. The only thing that knocked it down a star for me is that it was a little bit too insta-lovey and I wasn't always fully invested in the characters, but I definitely was by the end. The last adult Christmas romance that I want to talk to you all about is The Bridge by Karen Kingsbury. This is a short little novella that is a Christian Christmas story and a romance, and it follows 2 different couples. So you have the owners of the Bridge Bookstore, which is this sweet little bookstore with the sweetest little old man that owns it. And this is actually based off of the bookstore in Franklin, Tennessee called Landmark Booksellers and the couple that own it. But this man in the story has really built this great community out of his bookstore / coffee shop. And he ends up getting in a little bit of a situation. There's a flood at the bookstore and everything is ruined. And this is his livelihood. And he ends up getting in a car accident. He is hospitalized and he's in a coma essentially. And all of these people around him that love him so much, including a sweet college couple that have fallen in love in this bookstore, decide to come together and help him restore the bookstore, The Bridge. And it is such a sweet and wholesome story. You get 2 different romances. You get a really sweet, bookish community story, and it's perfect Christmas vibes. It's so good. If you are looking for a heartwarming, heart-tugging, emotional read this season, I definitely think you should check out The Bridge by Karen Kingsbury. I do have one more adult book recommendation before I move into young adult, and this one is just a really short novella by Fredrik Backman called The Deal of a Lifetime. So this book I did end up having to look up the synopsis for because I think it's been about 3 or 4 years since I've read it. I've only ever read Fredrik Backman's novellas. I've never read any of his full-length novels, but this one was a 4-star read for me and one that will definitely tug at your heartstrings. A father and a son are seeing each other for the first time in years. The father has a story to share before it's too late. He tells his son about a courageous little girl lying in a hospital bed a few miles away. She's a smart kid, smart enough to know that she won't beat cancer by drawing with crayons all day, but it seems to make the adults happy, so she keeps doing it. As he talks about this plucky little girl, the father also reveals more about himself, his triumphs in business, his failures as a parent, his past regrets, his hope for the future. Now, on a cold winter's night, the father has been given an unexpected chance to do something remarkable that could change the destiny of a little girl that he hardly knows. But before he can make the deal of a lifetime, he must find out what his own life has actually been worth, and only his son can reveal that answer. With humor and compassion, Fredrik Backman's The Deal of a Lifetime reminds us that life is a fleeting gift and our legacy rests in how we share that gift with others. Again, do not go into this without grabbing a box of tissues because you're definitely going to need it. This is an emotional ride. It is a Christmas story, but is a little bit more deep and heartfelt. It is just a novella, so you'll get through it pretty quickly. But again, it is an emotional roller coaster, so be prepared. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into my YA romance recommendations. And my first one has been one of my favorite Christmas books ever since I read it a couple of years ago, and I really should do a reread. But that is 10 Blind Dates by Ashley Elston. Some of you all may recognize this author because she's delved into the thriller genre in recent years, but this is what I know her for, and it's this cute little YA romance. This book follows our main character, and I've forgotten her name, so let's see what it is. It's Sophie. Okay, so Sophie is our main character, and she has just gone through a really nasty breakup. She goes home for the holidays and she was supposed to bring her boyfriend with her. However, she doesn't have a date to the Christmas festivities now. On top of all this, her sister is going through a little bit of a hard time. She's currently pregnant and I think she's going through preeclampsia. So you do have that element weaved into the story as well. And I feel like that was dealt with really well too. So in the midst of all of this, Sophie's sweet grandma decides that her family is going to set her up with 10 blind dates. So each family member sets Sophie up with a blind date, and each chapter represents each boy that she goes on a date with. And I thought that was such a creative and cute way to do a Christmas romance novel. They go on all these different dates and she gets to decide if she wants to continue, and become boyfriend and girlfriend with them, or like what does she want to do. And I loved the way this story ended. It was kind of predictable, but it was so worth it and so sweet. It does have one of my favorite tropes. I can't tell you what that is because it would be a spoiler, but if you start reading it, I feel like you'll catch on. But this was such a cute story. I loved it so much. It is a 5-star read, and again, one of my favorite Christmas romances. Another solid read is All I Want for Christmas by Wendy Loggia. This is a really short YA romance, and it follows our main character, Bailey Briggs. She is counting down the days to Christmas. She lives for holiday music, baking cookies, going on snowy sleigh rides, and wearing her light-up reindeer ears to work at Winslow's bookstore. But all she really wants this year is the one thing that she doesn't have: someone special to kiss under the mistletoe. And she's 100% certain that that someone isn't Jacob Marley, athlete, player, and of questionable taste in girlfriends, and that Charlie, the mysterious stranger with the British accent, is the romantic lead of her dreams. Is she right? This will be a December to remember filled with real-life Christmas magic, and if she stays on Santa's nice list, a wish that just might come true. So this is a little bit of a love triangle situation where the main character has two different guys that she is trying to decide between, and it's a little bit predictable. Again, I find that with YA romances, they typically are. But if you are looking for a really fluffy Christmas book, this would be a good one to check out. I did give this one 4 stars, and the only reason that I knocked a star off was because the main character could be a little bit annoying at times. But overall, I think if you're looking for a cute and quick Christmas read that is really fluffy, not smutty, this is going to be your book. And the last YA book recommendation that I'm going to have for you all is probably one of the first Christmas romances I read when I got back into reading. So I am a little bit rusty on my thoughts on this one, but that is Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan. So I feel like this was really popular on BookTube whenever I first came into the community in like 2019. So I think this is going to be still a great recommendation because there has been a Netflix adaptation. If you all have not seen it, I highly recommend reading the book and watching the adaptation because I absolutely loved it. So this story follows Dash and Lily, who are essentially strangers who end up exchanging letters through this little red notebook that they leave at this bookstore. And it takes place in New York City. There is a lot of like, I don't want to say You've Got Mail vibes because that's probably a little bit misleading. This is between teenagers, but they do exchange letters and get to know each other and then ultimately finally meet up. I thought this was a really sweet story, and again, it's been so long since I've read it, so I can't really recount a lot of it, but there are lots of little games that they play with each other and little scavenger hunts that they go on. So I think this is just a really unique and fun Christmas read, and again, you have a little mini-series adaptation to watch with it if you want to. I will say that I did only give this 4 stars whenever I read it the first time, so I would say to just go into it expecting YA characters, and they did get on my nerves a little bit in the middle. I think there's a little bit of like miscommunication or like a third act breakup kind of feel to it, but overall I thought this was such a fun read. And if you haven't picked it up, if you somehow missed this in the bookish community, check out Dash and Lily's Book of Dares. The last stack that I have here for you all today is going to be middle grade books, and I know you don't get a lot of middle grade book recommendations from me much these days, but I do have 3 Christmas ones that I think you all will enjoy. The first middle grade book that I'll recommend is Nutcracked by Susan Adrian. This was such a sweet story and a pleasant surprise. I read it a couple of years ago, and it is inspired by the Nutcracker, and it follows our main character, Georgie. And Georgie has dreamed of being Clara in the Nutcracker Ballet, and now she finally has the opportunity to do so. And it's magical, like so magical that she seems to seep into this other world every time she dances with the Nutcracker. So there's a little bit of magical realism here where whenever Georgie dances with the Nutcracker, she does in fact seem to be going into the world of the Nutcracker himself. Now the problem with this is that the Nutcracker's world seems to start seeping into her own world, and her friend and her are in danger now. So she has to make sure to not only save her friend, but save herself. There is a little bit, like a little hint of a romance in this one, so just be wary of that. This is for 8 to 12-year-olds, but I think it's probably a little bit more on the upper middle grade end of things because there's a little bit of like coming to terms with the fact that she actually likes her friend. And so I think there's a point in the book where they almost kiss or something, but just know that because it is middle grade, but it may be a little bit upper middle grade, but it's totally clean and a super sweet story. Another really fun one is The Christmasaurus by Tom Fletcher. Also, I forgot to mention all of these are 4-star reads, but this one is so stinking cute and it has a lot of illustrations throughout. So you get introduced to all of the characters at the beginning of the story via illustrations. And I think that's probably one of the best parts of this book. If you have a child, I highly recommend reading this with your child because it's such a fun and interactive read. I did read this with my middle grade book club whenever I had my middle grade book club that I hosted a couple of years ago with local 8 to 12-year-olds in my area. And we all had an absolute blast with this one. So this follows William Trundle. Never in William's wildest dreams did he think that Santa would actually bring him a dinosaur. And honestly, neither did Santa. But William is a boy who believes in the magic of the season, even if it includes a strange cast of characters. The meanest girl in school, possibly the world, Santa Claus, yes, the real Santa, a horrible villain called the Hunter, yikes, and a most unusual dinosaur. This story is so sweet and it's got some really unique characters. The main character actually is in a wheelchair, so you have that representation there, which I love seeing because you don't see that a lot in children's books. So I think that makes it really fun. But I did want to give you all a little taste of what the writing is like because this is why I'm telling you should definitely read aloud this book with your kids. The End of the Dinosaurs. This story starts like all good stories do, a long time ago. Not just a long time ago, but a very, very, very long time ago. Squillions of years ago, in fact. Long before your granny and your granddad were born, before there were any human beings at all, before cars and airplanes, even before there was the internet, there were something even better. Dinosaurs. Do you see how big that word is? Like, this is just such a fun book to read. And again, it had some really good representation. I will read, I think I put a little bit of a review on Goodreads for this one, but it wasn't super fleshed out. But I just want to let you know, like, from when I read it, what my initial thoughts and feelings were. I put, this was a magical middle grade read with a great message. It's important to embrace your differences because you are special and the world needs your uniqueness. I enjoyed the story and the whimsical storytelling and writing style, and I actually gave this 4.5 stars. The reason I knocked off 0.5 was mostly due to some of the problematic aspects of the book, which I don't remember what those are, but apparently they were in there. But overall, I think most kids would enjoy the story. The illustrations were adorable and there was a twist I didn't see coming. So definitely consider checking out The Christmasaurus by Tom Fletcher. And the last book that I'll be recommending is going to be A Boy Called Christmas by Matt Haig. You all may recognize the name Matt Haig because he has written a lot of adult novels, but this is the first in his middle grade series. This is the story of Nicholas, also known as Christmas, and Nicholas has had a pretty rough life. With his mother dead and his father off on a quest to prove that elves exist, Nicholas is left to live with his horrible aunt. Soon, however, he decides that waiting isn't going to work for him, so he sets out to find his father. What Nicholas finds along the way is much more than just a father. I really enjoyed this story. It was dark at times, especially in the beginning, and I wasn't crazy about that, especially it being a middle grade. It was kind of heavy, but the way that the story progressed made up for it. It does have a lot of those like very juvenile jokes in there, like there's poop humor, and I did giggle at it. Like I think there was at one point where he was flying on a reindeer and the reindeer pooped, and it's funny, you know, that's what kids find funny, and honestly I giggled a little bit at it myself, I won't lie. But there are so many great life lessons in this story, and overall it was a really cute and fun read. I did also read this book with my middle grade book club, and there is a Netflix movie adaptation that I highly recommend checking out as well. All right, friends, I hope you all enjoyed this little book recommendations video, and I hope that maybe you got some new Christmas book recommendations to read this year. I cannot wait to read all the Christmas things, and I have quite the large TBR. I definitely don't think I'm going to get to all of them this year, but if you want to recommend me your favorite Christmas book, please drop it down below in the comments. But if you have nothing else to say and you just want to leave a comment for support, you can go ahead and leave a Christmas present emoji down in the comments below. One last quick reminder to check out Raycon and my link down in the description box below, as well as the code BookLikeYou15 if you would like to get 15% off of your earbuds order. Again, thank you Raycon for sponsoring today's video, and thank you to you all for watching. I appreciate you all so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, friends.